Welcome back to another edition of the Returns Report. I'm Larissa Summers, SVP Marketing at Optoro, and we have some very special guests with us today. I'm very excited to introduce some folks from the Parker Avery Group with us. We have Lee Whitaker, who's a Senior Manager at Parker Avery. Hello, Lee, welcome.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Great to see you, thank you. And Rob Oglesby, also a Senior Manager at Parker Avery Group. Hey, Rob.
Hi, Larissa, how are you?
Great. We also have our very own Ken Lim, who's the Vice President of Solutions at Optoro. Welcome, Ken.
Thanks, Larissa. Good to be on.
We have a very compelling topic to talk about today, which is the reopening of stores in a post-COVID world. So, Lee, we're starting to hear a lot about states cautiously reopening their businesses, restaurants, salons, gyms. Retail is obviously a huge business with a physical presence that needs to reopen. What can we expect to see when these stores start to reopen and people start showing up again?
Yeah, that's a great question, Larissa. On the return side, I think we're going to see changes around three main practices. First, a new in-store returns experience for most customers. Additionally, you'll see an increased need for more sanitation and safety measures for the return goods themselves. And then finally, you're going to see the need for more preparation for an influx of customer returned inventory that could be heading the store's way. Ken, you want to touch on the first one around the in-store returns experience?
On our side, we anticipate that the new in-store returns experience will take shape along what we think to be a few different ways. So firstly, contactless refunds. So what we mean by this is, as you know, during the COVID era, quite a number of retailers have already had to go to more and more curbside pickup. And we think it'll be a natural extension to also go into curbside returns, hence the contactless refund or contactless returns process. Secondly, we will also start to see more and more express automated type of returns formats. So think drop-off boxes or drop-off kiosks. Third, even as customers do need to end up being in front of a customer service agent or customer service desk inside the brick and mortar store, a lot of retailers are going to start moving towards more QR code type of formats of delivery. So imagine your shopper receiving a QR code on his or her mobile phone, walking straight up to the customer service desk and presenting that to the store associate to minimize the time of interaction, to minimize the number of keystrokes or even credit card exchanges.
Rob, we're talking about returns here, right? It's the returns report. So with those returns coming back, what sort of safeguards do retailers have to put in place to deal with those goods coming back from folks at this point?
Yeah, here's an interesting find, Larissa. Chain Store Age did a study a couple of weeks ago and found that 2 out of 3 consumers are actually extremely concerned about sanitation and sanitation and physical surfaces inside the store. So that's clearly something that retailers are currently dealing with, and it's going to just explode into the returns area as well. I mean, the sad point is we still don't know exactly how long this virus lives and on various surfaces, whether it's hard goods, packaging, or apparel, footwear, and so forth. So in all cases, we've got to be real cautious and really kind of err on that side of caution, almost overdoing it, if you will. As a result, we really kind of recommend several new practices inside the store itself. So first off, kind of going back to what Ken had referred to is, the more we can do kind of contactless or almost bypass the store altogether, or at least make it a simple drop-off process, the better off the retailer is going to be and the consumer is going to be about that. So that's almost taking the store operations out of the practice as well. But at any rate, if they are still going to come to the store, they're going to more or less have to isolate those returns. A lot of stores have returns desks, but some that don't are going to have to essentially implement something on the makeshift to do that. They're going to need to take those products and store them in locations that are safe, that are kind of isolated. So it might even require bins of certain types and so forth to do that as well. They'll need to create or perform routine sweeps, especially as the volume increases, and stores haven't really sold as much through either. So there's a lot of inventory in these stores potentially, which will further cause some bottlenecks and so forth that they're going to have to take care of. But they need to keep those goods isolated. And sadly, it might even some situations might even require literally taking those returns off site so that they can be further sanitized before returning them to the sales floor and the consumer. As an added precaution. So lots of complexity as far as the stores are concerned.
So a lot of extra consideration and care to be taken on behalf of the retailers who are going to be seeing these returns coming back in once stores reopen. And to that point, you know, Lee, we've looked at some research in the past and conducted research in the past that shows that most people, in fact, up to 80% of people prefer to return in a store environment. So do you think that retailers going to see an influx of returns from people who've been holding on to these to wait for stores to reopen before they can come back and bring those back to the store?
Yeah, that's a really interesting data point, Larissa. And when you combine kind of the existing flexible return policies with the pent-up demand for returns that exist in the marketplace right now because of various stay-at-home or quarantine policies, I think you definitely can expect to see an influx of return goods heading back to the stores as the various states and territories relax their procedures. And this increased returns volume could have potential impacts beyond just the store and really reach far up into the reverse supply chain infrastructure. Physical storage of the goods, as Rob referenced, as well as special handling or processing capability is what immediately jumps to mind. But you add to that potential delays on the transportation side of things because of this unplanned volume, and you could really see backlogs related to just returns kind of moving up and down the retail supply chain. So this is a case where clearly retailers that can efficiently process their returns, both at the store and at the DC, will have a market advantage in kind of working their way through this glut of returned inventory. One other area that I think we will also need to prepare, and that's on the financial or merchandise planning spaces. New operational requirements that we've talked about already will of course bring expense pressures right out of the gate as they adapt to kind of the new world. But additionally, these returns are going to put pressure on markdown and mark out of stock budgets and the timing of taking those markdowns. It's safe to say that most retailers did not plan for a large influx of return goods when they were building their preseason plans. And so they're going to need to address that and make sure that they have a plan for the timing of those markdowns, as well as how they address as they look forward into the future for next season's plans, and making sure that their software systems, whether it's their planning or their forecasting systems, adequately account for these outlier events that hopefully are one time. And so you want to make sure that those systems adequately account for that and do not let them unduly influence future plans. So clearly a lot of areas are touched by just the idea of this return volume. Ken, you any other areas that are front of mind in your space?
Even though total sales during this period is down for most all retailers, as you point out, I think that I agree with you, Lee. There will certainly be a surge in-store returns initially. And what we think is that this initial wave of returns will be comprised almost all of it by online orders, and certainly with potentially even online exclusive items. As a result of that, retailers, especially ones that have not, prior to the COVID, fully integrated their store point of sale systems with their e-commerce systems, they might actually start to find that the processing of these in-store returns is going to be a lot more complex. And so the retailers should be thinking about who they staff at the guest services desks and how much they staff in anticipation of just more difficult processing potentially in the short term.
Well, thank you so much, Lee and Rob from the Parker Avery Group. Ken, thanks for joining your expertise to the conversation from Optoro. I'm Larissa Summers. Thanks for joining another returns report. We'll see you back again here soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.